These days, when you ask a person about their profession, you've probably heard the title entrepreneur or the line, "I work for a startup." It's unlikely that you've spoken with someone who calls themselves an inventor. It's true that tinkering week after week with new ideas has never been seen as the most reliable or profitable career. That is, unless you strike gold. But looking back through history, do you think famous inventors like Alexander Graham Bell, Nikola Tesla, or Benjamin Franklin instantly found success? No, it was years of learning, failing, and brainstorming new ideas in hopes of an eventual discovery. Even after making progress, some inventors, like Tesla for instance, never gained enough recognition or funding to catapult them to success. It's only in recent decades that the work Tesla did in the late 1800s and early 1900s has had a resurgence. But it's important to remember that without these people taking risks, society would be stagnant. Yancey Strickler is a firm believer in supporting the small people with big ideas. Strickler is the co-founder of the popular creative funding platform Kickstarter and author of the book This Could Be Our Future, a manifesto for a more generous world.
Kickstarter began when Perry Chen first had the idea for it back in 2001, 2002. He wanted to throw a concert, but was going to have to front about 20 grand to make it happen. So he had this thought of what if instead you could propose the idea for the concert on the internet. People would put up their credit cards to buy tickets, but no one would be charged unless the show sold out. He had that idea, almost 20 years ago at this point. And myself and Charles Adler joined as co-founders, and the site launched in 2009, and now it's $4.5 billion to independent creative people around the world.
The mission of Kickstarter has always been to create a platform for inventors, artists, and general creatives to get the funding they need without taking on huge gambles in the form of a loan or risky outside capital that only has profit in mind.
It built a door where one hadn't existed, but it needed to be, which are just ideas that are not profit motivated, ideas that simply want to exist because someone is passionate about them, and that there could be a space that would exist in our economy, our financially maximizing economy, that would actually be about creative maximization or collective maximization, people coming together to make things rather than people trying to make money for themselves. And so, every Kickstarter project is like on its own too small for these big businesses to care about. But it ends up that collectively we can make a lot of noise just by acting on the values that are important to us.
Over the last decade, the site has received more than $4.6 billion in pledges to back independent products, tech, the arts, music, journalism, and more. The people who fund these projects can have a stake in the end result, whether that's an experience like a concert or receiving the product once it's fully developed. One famous device that started out on Kickstarter is the virtual reality headset, the Oculus Rift. It was created by four guys and is recognized as one of the first premium VR inventions of its time. The idea raised $2.4 million on Kickstarter in 2012, propelling virtual reality headsets into the public eye. Just 2 years later, in 2014, Facebook bought Oculus for $2.3 billion and has since manufactured several different versions of the headset. It's success stories like the Oculus Rift that inspire many of the unique ideas on the site. But Strickler says it's important to keep in mind that at the end of the day, it's not about big monetary gains, but the creative people behind a project who took a risk to construct something they believe in.
Really, the focus is trying to find what are those purpose-driven goals. And I think people are searching for it, but we live in a culture that doesn't reward purpose at all. We live in a culture that celebrates wealth and only wealth.
While advancements in society have opened up opportunity, it's also increased the pressure to succeed quickly and make money.
Since the 1960s, UCLA has been surveying American college students all around the country and asking them, among other things, asking them about their goals in life. And one of these questions gives them a list of like 10 life goals, and they're supposed to say whether or not they're essential. And in 1970, the most essential life goal for college students was to, quote, develop a meaningful philosophy on life. It was 80-some% of college students said that was essential. There's one of these choices that has to do with money, and that's called being very well off financially or being rich. And in 1970, 28% of students said that was very important or essential. The most recent year this survey came out in 2017, the percentage of students who said that having a meaningful philosophy on life was important was just 40%. But the percentage who said being rich was important was 82%. So in 1970, we were looking for our purpose, and in 2017, people are told what their purpose is. It's to be rich. But what people find and discover in life is that when you follow these profit-driven goals for yourself, they actually lead to more unhappiness. And so you raise your stakes. Actually, now it's I need to have even more money to be happier. I need an even better job. I need more accolades. We're running this race with no finish line.
For some, the primary goal of making a lot of money can be fulfilling. But for others, this cycle is destructive. Not everyone fits into the mold of a 9-to-5, and Strickler says that's okay. He works to keep the spirit of independent invention alive by reassuring young people that there are still opportunities to dream big and make it on your own.
To me, Kickstarter shows the power of changing the reason why. Today, all activity must add up to a good financial return. On Kickstarter, every project goes forward just if people like it. So what would a society look like where the outcome we were thinking about wasn't a financial return? Say it's a value positive return, but that value could include the sustainability of our lifestyles, or that value could include the social connectedness we feel to our families, or that value can include the amount of purpose we feel in our day-to-day life.
Part of life means taking risks and following your passion. You'll never know unless you try, and it's never too late to start. To learn more about how to use Kickstarter to fund your own idea, visit Kickstarter.com. You can also learn more about our guest, Yancey Strickler, by visiting viewpointsradio.org. His book, This Could Be Our Future, A Manifesto for a More Generous World, is available now in bookstores and online. For more behind the scenes, check out Viewpoints Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and shower-to-shower talcum products have been linked to ovarian cancer. In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by two juries to two women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder prior to the diagnosis, call Talcum Powder Help Now today at 800-833-0398. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. Don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help Now at 800-833-0398. 800-833-0398. 800-833-0398.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints. Coming up next week.
There's exactly one generation of students in the United States that have gone to school during a pandemic, and it's the students who were in our classrooms last spring.
The challenges of returning back to learning once again. Then,
we'll just go sit at a bar and talk to the bartenders because they know so many of the neighborhood secrets.
The unseen gems in each town and city across the country. I'm Marty Peterson.
and I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.